I guess I'm last. I had to write a couple things down. I'm sorry. Just a little bit of trivia about that growl that John used to do when he was stomping off a tune. I mean, one thing for a drummer, it's great. And when I once in a while I'll judge a jazz festival, I'm always telling the conductors, make it a really long count off, because if you do that to the whole band, if you just start doing something, and John would do that kind of growl and start winding up this thing, it would never be 1, 2, 1. It would always be 2, 2, 3, 4. And when I was on the road with Frank Zappa in '88, you're on the bus and telling all stories and stuff, and I told him about John Prince and that whole thing, and he just thought it was hilarious. So he started having a make a jazz noise contest on stage. And then the album Make a Jazz Noise Here happened. So there you go, inspired by John Prince. I just want to say it was a real pleasure to be asked to play tonight, and with all my great friends from Long Beach State, and to play with this great band. And thank you, Jeff. I'll try to make this not too long. And I agree with everything everyone has said, but I'll just add a little bit to it. I met John Prince and Coralie when I was 11 years old. My father, in 1971, my father, who was teaching at McGaw Elementary School in Seal Beach, decided to have a jazz band. I was in his first elementary school jazz band. It was 3rd through 8th grade at the time. And if you can imagine 1971, there wasn't a whole lot of music for elementary school jazz ensembles. And, so Dad, now it's completely different, but back in those days, Dad thought, well, we played a couple things that were really corny, and he said, no, we've got to do better than this, so he called up John Prince and commissioned him. Did a couple fundraisers, like Dad always does, and commissioned some original music. So the first piece that we played that John wrote was a Bo Diddley tune that John had composed, and we'd rehearsed for quite a while with Dad. It was our first jazz band, and we rehearsed the tune enough where we could play all the notes, And then Dad got John to come out and rehearse the band. So, yeah, by that time it was a group of 3rd to 8th graders, and from what I remember, John was working with us. He was really working on the groove and he was trying to make it sound funkier and greasier. Then I remember the next year when he wrote a chart for the band, he actually wrote in the part, greasy Bo Diddley, So, but that kind of stuff, it stuck with you. I remember a few other charts that John wrote over the years for the elementary school. There was a Bill Cosby theme called Hickey Burr, which is a pretty funky tune at the time. Some originals that he did, including one that he called Big Bad Chad. And my favorite one was an arrangement of John Coltrane's Impressions. That was a really cool arrangement. And he had the ability to write for elementary school, make it sound like it was much harder than it was. So we were just kids back then, but even so, John helped us get hip to what to listen to and what to listen for. After I graduated I went to Huntington Beach High School. After I graduated from high school, I attended CSULB when I was 17. For the first year, I played Latin percussion in the #1 jazz band, played drums in the #3 jazz band that we had here. And like he was saying, there were so many great musicians. John Patitucci was in the #2 band. Jay Anderson was in the #1 band, It was just incredible, especially rhythm section players at the time. The following year, I was playing kit in the #1 band. And some of the players that I remember back from that time, as well as the guys here, Jay Anderson, John Patitucci, Jim Cox, of course, Tom Kubis, Dan Higgins, Mike Higgins, John Ferraro, Dave Witham, Gordon Peak, Dave Hawker, all amazing musicians, and most of these guys I work with or hang out still to this day. John was a very colorful character. He was a great arranger and composer, but I think John was a magnet for all these talented musicians. He always conducted the band as if it was his own personal band, not really like he was an educator and saying, oh, you're not properly playing this. It was more like his band. You really had the feeling like he was the leader, and spontaneously he might be the singer. Um, which would happen, you know, you'd let, especially on festivals or gigs, he'd really let players stretch out, open up the solos and stuff, but you could see him, he might go for the mic himself, and it was all great, you know. Really compared to any other college bands at the time, John's band always had a big personality. So for me, what I remember about John and those rehearsals, it was working on getting the right feel, the groove, and especially getting some grease into the music. They're the things I remember most from about those rehearsals. It was really the stuff that was beyond the notes on the paper that was important. And that's really stuck with me as well. I'm so glad that we could have this night to remember John Prince, because we all miss him. Thank you.